Welcome to Crush House Cappers. I'm your host, Wayne Allyn, the CEO of VegasWinners.com and the man the media calls the king of Vegas sports gambling and America's odds maker. I'm the only sports handicapper in the world with a 180-pound granite star on the Las Vegas Walk of Stars. And now I'm bringing my Vegas wise guy connections and Vegas insider knowledge to you. This is the show for every type of sports gambler. Male, female, high roller, beginner, $10 better, $10,000 better. We're here to empower everyone that loves the single most important part of betting, winning. At Crush House Cappers and our sponsor website, VegasWinners.com, winning isn't everything, it's the only thing. Now remember, you can always unlock my winning sports gaming point spread advice at VegasWinners.com. Go there now, register for free, it's easy, it takes 2 minutes, and it opens you up to a world of free point spread advice and best bet winners. Today I bring you a leading expert at sports handicapping, Chip Chirimbes, a Las Vegas handicapping legend with a stellar reputation for picking winners for decades. Hello, Chip. Welcome back. Great to have you on the show.
Wonderful, Wayne. The preseason was a great success and nothing but NFL and college football in front of us.
All right, so I want to start with a question, not really a handicapping question, but a football question. You and I have watched football for, 40 years. And every year they make such a big deal about the draft. And yeah, right. Once in a while you get a guy who for the first day is a superstar. But in general, they make a big deal about all these quarterbacks and they pay them millions of dollars, tens of millions, and none of them even winds up starting. They're on the bench.
Well, there was a crop this year of 4 top college quarterbacks that came out. Of course, we had Lawrence going to Jacksonville and Mac Jones going to the Patriots and Fields going to Chicago and Wilson going to New York. He was a locked-in starter with the Jets. But these other positions, these other quarterbacks in San Francisco where Trey Lance went, during the entire preseason, they just didn't pass the eye test to me. I know I didn't think they had the experience. I never thought Garoppolo would get knocked out or any of the other ones. And the one that I least likely anticipated to start would have been Mac Jones because of Belichick's regimentation of probably going to go with the veteran. But Cam Newton sealed his own fate by not following the proper protocol for Bill Belichick's liking, and he jettisoned him. So the only real starter we have out there, aside from Wilson in New York, is going to be Mac Jones. So the other 3 just weren't ready, Wayne. I know that all I heard through the entire preseason on all the NFL and networks, all the networks out there were just promoting how all 3 of these guys were going to be starters. And Garoppolo's ready and Lance is not, that's for sure. Garoppolo, I anticipate to have a big year with the 49ers.
And nobody wants Cam Newton, and you know why? Because he's not vaccinated. So these crazy NFL rules that say if you're not vaccinated, you get sick, your team forfeits a game, has made it impossible to have a player, especially a quarterback, who's unvaccinated if he gets sick. Meanwhile, they all admitted the truth yesterday for the first time. Belichick said the vaccinated players are all getting sick like crazy. So it's not going to work. The system doesn't work. Right. But, hey, Cam Newton's out. So it makes
there were 2 old school coaches. One of them is new in the NFL, Urban Meyer and Belichick, and they both made cuts based on COVID. So and they weren't supposed to be able to do that. But, the NFL pretty much rules. We talked about that. I think they're a very powerful entity, and they'll do as they wish.
Yeah, well, if I'm the lawyer for the Players Union, I sue for $1 billion because no player should be cut because he chooses not to get vaccinated. Yeah. It's about your talent on the field.
Right.
Winless preseason. 7 teams had a winless preseason, including my Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to tell you from my perspective, it's the most meaningless stat in the world.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I'll bet you the winless Cowboys give the Tampa Bay Buccaneers a run for their money in week number 1. My Cowboys never played a starter for more than like 1 series the entire preseason. So it's a meaningless stat, I think. What do you say?
Well, Wayne, you and I have been doing this for years, and we always used to look and anticipate a team that turned in preseason would go 0-4, and you look to play them the opening week. And this year we have 7 different teams, and a couple of times it's because these teams are that bad, and the Cowboys look that bad. McCarthy sat 30 players in the final game. I mean, Jacksonville, who was 0-2, comes in as almost a touchdown favorite at Dallas. That's one of your don't make sense games, and that's how I wrote it up for you, Wayne. But so these numbers and what's going on with these bad teams, it's happened in baseball. The difference between the haves and the has not must really actually exist. But I've never seen 7 teams go winless. But I think you're right. I think if Dallas, when they play Thursday night, you and I may be the only 2 people on Dallas because I don't know how you can take them after that preseason. They looked hard and they looked poorly coached as well.
Dak Prescott for MVP. All right, 17-game schedule. Let's talk about how that impacts things. I've been waiting my whole life for the NFL to expand. I actually was rooting for an 18-game schedule with 2 byes, and the Players Union wouldn't go for it. So at least we got the consolation prize, 1 extra game, 17-game schedule. How do you think it'll impact things?
Well, I think they're going to go to 18, Wayne. I think you're right. They'll end up playing just 1 or 2 preseason games and I think, we spoke about this before, and I think your idea is right on. I really do. But 17 games is a long haul. It really is. And the quarterback position seems to be the most vulnerable. Probably the biggest and the strongest out there has been Roethlisberger, and yet he's been banged up in the last year. And now his new protege, or even past him now, is Josh Allen at Buffalo. He's a big, strong kid, Wayne. We've seen him out here, and he's in the right environment in Buffalo when they are now, say, the new threat in the AFC at least.
Yeah, well, my point is with a 17-game schedule, Chip, you're going to have to play some backups. You can't ask every player to play every second of every game. That's a grueling schedule. So it might impact handicapping because there might be 1 or 2 games a year where they put some key backups in to give the starters rest.
Wayne, that makes me think that they should have expanded the rosters by 1 or 2 players have active at each week, even though they carry a taxi squad and they shuttle these guys in and out. But roster size, it would be a thing of interest as the schedule increases. As
would a second bye. Why not have 2 byes? I think it should be an 18-game schedule with 2 byes. So it's a 20.
I'd love that because it extends the season for us as well. It gives us extra weeks.
It'd be a 20-week NFL season before you even get to the playoffs. But we get an extra game, and we did get 2 extra playoff contenders as well, right? Wild cards. They added that as well. So it's a lot more betting action for all of us. Good for everybody. Last thing to ask you about, surprising cuts in the NFL. Who was the biggest surprise to you?
I would tell you, it would be Cam Newton right off the top. I think that's a no-brainer, and I still think there's good things to be done because they have a full week off after the last preseason game before they come up with an opener. So as if each team has already started with a bye this weekend. And but Cam Newton's got to be the headliner there. And I was also surprised when the Niners cut Gallman, who filled in so well for Barkley with the Giants last year. I was very disappointed the Giants had gotten rid of him. He was a really good back out of Clemson. He was in his 5th year. Traded to the 49ers, and the 49ers cut him. So I think he might be able to play, but I was surprised that he wasn't there because the 49ers actually went for him.
Well, you say the biggest surprise cut is Cam Newton, and I'll say the biggest surprise is Cam Newton, not as a cut, but as a non-pickup. The Dallas Cowboys, again to my Cowboys, he's the perfect backup. How can you count on 17 games for Dak Prescott? If something goes wrong, you got to have a backup, and it can't be the weak candidates they got now. But they didn't pick up Cam Newton. Why? Because he's not vaccinated. They're scared to death. He's had
the virus twice. He hurt the team last year, and I can understand teams, especially competitors, being very skeptical because if he tests positive again and he takes down your backfield or 6-7 players at a time, it can really disrupt it. I think right now they're really concerned about trying to get through the 17-game schedule in 18 weeks. Injury-free and COVID-free, because you got to have people that can get on the field. Because Wayne, this affects some players. I mean, this Tony hasn't been on the field yet for the Giants, and their strength and capacity to come back, it varies for these players. Some of them take longer than others, and others have no ill effects at all.
Last question: any quick edges for this this week 1 of college football coming up on Saturday?
Well, I'm Saturday's got a couple of great games out there. There's Georgia and Clemson game, of course, is the headliner. LSU is going to UCLA, who finally got on the board in a positive fashion after 4 straight losing seasons. Nebraska's terrible and terribly coached. But this Clemson Georgia game, it seems that the influx, Wayne, is that people think that Georgia's, with JT Daniels at the helm, is the team here. It's an SEC team. But Clemson has been dropped down to a 2.5-point favorite here, I saw last night at the sports books. So it's going to be very interesting. I think that the money is, and the sentiment is coming on the Bulldogs a little too much right now. Haven't made any final decisions, and you and I will probably discuss this later on anyway.
As soon as this is over, I'll be on the phone to you, Chip. All right, Chip Chirimbes. He's been one of the champions of sports handicapping for, I don't know, 4 decades, Chip, at this point?
Yeah.
Long time. Started out in New York with me, wound up in Vegas with me. We go back a long ways together. Thank you, Chip. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Wayne, and good luck to you.
All right, Wayne Allyn with Sean Salisbury. Sean, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Good to be on with you. It's football season, brother. You know I'm pumped up.
By the way, you look fantastic, my friend.
Thank you.
Listen,
I like look at you. I got to keep up somehow. I'm a long ways away, but I'm trying, brother.
We're the Smith and the Joneses. We're keeping up. It's good.
There you go.
Let's talk about a few questions. Some of them are ones you wanted. I want to start with a question I wanted, which is my Dallas Cowboys finished the preseason 0-4. You know, it was 3-game preseason, but they played in the NFL Hall of Fame games. They're one of the 2 teams with Pittsburgh that had 4 games. Does it mean anything to be 0-4 in the preseason? I don't think it does if you never played a starter. Now, if Dak played and he was horrible, we'd all be nervous on pins and needles. Never played 1 down, so you never had your starting quarterback in for 1 down the whole preseason, and all you had was scrubs and backups in game number 4 against Jacksonville, against their starters. Does this mean anything?
Absolutely not. Where it does mean, it obviously meant something, not the record, but to the guys that were bubble players trying to play. And I think for coaches, Wayne, what it does mean is what guys on the bubble or young players can handle going from the practice field to the games and handle a little pressure. Because even though the starters aren't there, you want to see if the second and third guys or bubble guys can handle if there's a $1:30 to go. Can you handle a minute 20 drive when we got to have a 2-minute drill? Doesn't mean anything. On the opposite of the Cowboys, the Ravens have won 20 straight preseason games. It doesn't mean anything to me, like you said, unless my starters are in there. The risk is too great for the reward. I don't want to win preseason games. I want to have my guys ready to go. Young quarterback, a little work, but when your veterans aren't playing, it means nothing. Although Denny Green used to tell us when he was our coach in Minnesota, if we're going to go play, we'd like to win. But that was aimed at guys who weren't playing every down. It was the guys who were trying to make the team. So for me, we've seen teams win no preseason games and go on and make the playoffs. And we've seen the opposite, that where they're undefeated and go on and not play well. When it really starts is next Thursday when your Cowboys open up against Tampa. Doesn't mean a hill of beans. I don't really give a rat's ass what they do in the preseason. Now it's time to show what you got.
And I don't think it means anything, but obviously it means something to John Harbaugh. How do you win 20 times in a row in the preseason? So obviously Harbaugh at Baltimore thinks preseason means something, and his team makes the playoffs every year. So give him credit, because he must have the philosophy that you never lose. You want to win every game you play. When you walk on the field, you want to have a winning attitude. I guess.
And real quick about that, Wayne, you
know
what that is? And that's another thing. And you know this, winning becomes contagious, as does losing.
Right.
So you want to have that feel-good feeling. And obviously John knows how to coach backups and other guys when his starters aren't playing. So it's a good thing.
And my Dallas Cowboys, I still think we have the most talent on the field. You know, top 5 in the NFL. I think we're going to have a great year. But obviously our backups suck, because the backups can't win a game. That's for sure.
Right.
Your question that you wanted to answer, if you were the NFL commissioner for the year, what changes would you make to the NFL?
Well, a lot of them. I'd take his salary at about $45 million a year. That'd be okay by me, Wayne. Then you and I could have a great time. It's always on me. 2 things stick out for me, and I know there's a ton of them. One is I would go back. I think the rules for I think every rule is set up for the offense to succeed and the defense to suffer. It just is, and I know we like points, but I would take away some of these bang-bang plays that are unintentional, and we're fining guys and suspending guys. You're not a dirty play. Intent has got to be more important than a bang-bang play where they hit helmets on accident when a receiver ducks and hits. So and I know we're trying to protect players, but we can't take away the damn integrity of physical football. We don't play, this isn't bullshit flag football, although that's good for kids. This is pros. That's one. And the quarterback. I think the quarterback has way too much confidence in knowing, and watch the quarterbacks. Every time they get hit, boom, their head snaps and says, is that referee going to call it? And one that's bothered me forever, I can't stand our overtime. I cannot stand a coin flip. I would do this, and it's real simple. Coin flip. Both teams get a minimum of one offense and defensive possession because all things come into play then, right? Field goal or touchdown, you get a chance to match. And then it becomes sudden death overtime if you both score a touchdown.
Right.
Because offense, defense, and special teams are all involved.
I like it.
Coin flip should not decide who wins the game. I want all three involved. They both should get a chance to match touchdown or not.
Let alone a Super Bowl, by the way. One coin flip, right? And I had the winning side. I had the New England Patriots that year. But you can't let them win a coin flip, go down, and the game's over. That's crazy.
Amen.
But I'll tell you what I would do if I was commissioner for the day. The biggest, you're going to find out by the end of the season, save this tape, the biggest mistake in the history of sports was demanding every player be vaccinated. Israel's the most vaccinated nation in the world, and there's a total blockage in the news media. They haven't announced that Israel is the sickest nation in the world. The vaccines wore off, and everybody's sick. Right now, person for person, based on the size of Israel, they are the sickest COVID nation in the entire world, and everyone's vaccinated. The hospitals are filled. People are dying like crazy. All I've ever said, I never said don't get the vaccine. I said wait, and don't give it to healthy young players. They don't need it. The dangers aren't worth it. They're not going to die from COVID. Guess what? You're going to see the NFL so sick this year. Those players are going to get sick because Israel vaccinated 8 months ago, and it's just happening now. America doesn't understand. The vaccine wears off, and when it wears off, the variant is actually worse for the people that got the vaccine. Worse. It's much easier to get sick, much easier to spread it, and much easier to get seriously ill. And nobody seems to know this yet, which means the NFL is going to get lots and lots of sick players by November and December. Very scary. They should have just waited and made sure that everything worked. They rushed into it, and now every player is vaccinated for the most part. And I think it's going to cause all kinds of games to be canceled. Very scary.
Yeah, that'll be a bummer, too, won't it, Wayne?
Yeah, it will be. Yeah. All right, let's talk about what former player you would bring back. If you could bring back one former player, who would it be?
Well, I could go way back to your Cowboy. I'll tell you a sneaky one. Your guy, Tony Dorsett, and Roger Staubach.
Roger Staubach.
Yeah, but I got a couple of them. I was fortunate to play against, well, I didn't have to tackle his ass or it wouldn't have happened. And Rashad Jennings, who's going to join us later on, he knows all about this guy, Barry Sanders. I think he was worth the price of admission times 40. Can you imagine now with spread out offenses, with guys always trying to defend the pass, that cat in the open field, you trying to tackle him, he could run 60 yards and gain 2 and chase you around. I watched Joey Browner, a teammate of mine who's a Pro Bowler, probably should be in the Hall of Fame, grab air trying to tackle him. I would love to see Barry Sanders. So we got cheated. We didn't get all of Barry Sanders' career. And number 2, and this one really would be my number 1 because I'm partial to quarterbacks, with these offenses and the way they throw and rules for quarterbacks, can you imagine Marino in Kansas City?
Oh my
Can you imagine Dan Marino and your Cowboys, as good as those guys are? The ball comes out so quick. He didn't take sacks. With the way receivers are now and the way the game's open and defenses and offenses, the rules that are set up, Dan Marino would throw for 6,000 yards, and that is a guarantee market. He'd be at the top of the list because I think if Dan was on a good team, he probably would have won 4 Super Bowls. They were good, and I don't mean it like that, but a better team that helped him and supported him even more. He had good players. Marino would be at the top of the list because I think he'd set the world on its ear.
All right, let me give you some fun ones. First of all, Roger Staubach, because very few people understand. Here's a guy, his stats were great, but not that great compared to today. But for those days, they were great. If you have Staubach today and you let him rip it, you know, you'd have the Drew Pearson Hail Mary every play. And so here's a guy that played only 10 seasons in the NFL, and I believe he made the conference championship or the Super Bowl 7 out of 10 and got in 4 Super Bowls. So give me Staubach today, and he'd be breaking every record in the history of football for winning. The guy would win every Super Bowl like a Tom Brady. Give me Joe Namath today. There's nobody that handsome and that cool at quarterback who's hanging out with the most beautiful women in the world. Come on, Joe Namath was the greatest guy of his time.
Right.
Put him today. Right. And how about this one, just for fun? It's not like I like him. It's not like I don't think he murdered someone. But O.J. Simpson. If you're going to bring someone back that causes controversy, we got to have O.J. Simpson in the backfield. Come on. By the way,
I friggin' love you, man.
By the way, I live not only in Vegas, but in the Summerlin area of Vegas, which is like the Beverly Hills of Las Vegas. Everywhere I go, every night I go out to eat, whatever nice restaurant I go to, I walk into O.J. Simpson. He's there every night trying to pick up beautiful ladies at the bar, I swear to God. And so every time I go out, it's OJ, it's OJ, it's OJ. It's unbelievable. So it just reminded me, wouldn't that be controversial? OJ back.
I got something. OJ Simpson's on my mind for another one of these questions, and we'll get to it.
All right, you got it. But what you did want to ask me was the biggest NFL betting guarantee. You wanted me to say, what is it, Sean Salisbury? Well, I can't wait. I'm on pins and needle. What's the biggest betting guarantee?
Well, you're going to know this better than me, but for me, the biggest betting guarantee is that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers win the division by minimum of 2 games. That's number one. I actually think right now, 22 starters back, the quarterback, 7-time Super Bowl winner. They're in the offense more. They've had an off season together. I think that if anybody thinks the Chiefs or the Buffalo Bills are right now better than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, think you're wrong. Both really good, and your Dallas Cowboys and the Rams are good as well. But Brady, another year after a Super Bowl, and he always stays hungry. The biggest guarantee is not only that they're going to win the division, but that they will be hosting the NFC, at home field throughout the playoffs with a chance to get back to the Super Bowl. That's the biggest guarantee. The Bucs will win the division with the best record in the NFC.
Are you trying to say the buck stops here?
Right, yes, it does, brother.
So that will make Tom Brady at the time of the Super Bowl, 45 years old?
He's 44 now. He'll be 45 next fall.
This is freaking ridiculous. I mean,
unbelievable.
Completely ridiculous. But by the way, it backs up my thinking. I work out 90 minutes a day every day. Tom Brady's a workout maniac. And if players in the 1970s and 80s ever had his work ethic, they could have played 20 years as well, So
instead of smoking cigarettes in the locker room, at halftime, right?
No good. I never smoked in my life, never drank in my life. What player do you think is the best in history, NFL and college football combined? That's an interesting question I've never heard before.
Yeah, it is. And I looked at it. I was thinking about basketball when I came up with this football question, because when people talk about Michael Jordan, who's great, and we're at a time now when guys don't stay in college if you're in the NBA, that's got to be Lou Alcindor / Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for the NBA, right? National championships, John Wooden, all the NBA championships, MVPs. For football, for me, it's 2 guys. One you talked about, one I talked about. And there's a lot of others. Is O.J. Simpson, Heisman Trophy winner, one of the best we've ever seen in college. And I know people cringe when you say his name. And also in the NFL, first 2,000-yard rusher, did it during 14 games.
The Juice.
So his combined college and NFL is absolutely ridiculous. And can you imagine with 16 games with this? And then going back to the guy I mentioned, his all-purpose yards, his college career.
Barry
he was
Sanders.
playing behind Thurman Thomas, so he didn't get the full Barry Sanders. And he was on a Detroit team that wasn't very good. I'm going with Sanders and O.J. Simpson. There's not many better with that college and NFL career combined. Your guy in Dallas at quarterback was pretty good, too.
I was going to say I'll go with Roger Staubach. He won the Heisman playing for, Annapolis. That's amazing. Playing for Navy, he won the Heisman Trophy, and then gave up, 4 years in the Navy in Vietnam? 5.
Yep.
And then came in late as a rookie, and no one thought he could do it. And one of the great scramblers of all time, Roger the Dodger Staubach. Great guy. By the way, the greatest line of all time. I don't know if you remember the line. He's being interviewed by Phyllis George, Roger Staubach, and she asks him about Joe Namath's reputation as a swinger and a bachelor and all the hot ladies. And he says, Joe Namath and I enjoy sex just as much as him, but I like it with one lady. I thought that was probably the greatest line of all time.
Great guy. And you know what's great, Wayne, and you know this because you follow him and you're a businessman. Can you imagine how much money he'd make at quarterback now? This is a $50 million guy.
Yeah.
But such a successful businessman. He's making more money and he knows what to do with now because he's such a good guy and focused. His business acumen is is even exceeded his playing career, and that's saying something for one of the best dudes and players we've ever had.
Well, I saw the list. He's the richest NFL player in history. There's
go.
Quite a few LeBron in the NBA that are billionaires or close to it. He's worth, I think, $600 or $700 million. No NFL player made that list that high. He's number one in the history of the NFL. Roger Staubach sold his real estate company for $1 billion, and his take was $600 million. So he's worth $600 to $700 million. And by the way, his biggest mistake or failure, whatever word you want to use, if Roger Staubach had entered politics, he would have become president of the United States. but he never got involved in politics. He stayed in business. He would have been governor of Texas like George W. Bush, and then he would have gone on to be president of the United States. Beloved guy, and he just didn't have the political itch. But if he did, he missed out on being president of the United States.
Wayne, he still might win it if he ran for it. The truth.
Well, today,
he still could win it. Yeah.
I think anybody would win it today against Joe Biden, but that's a whole nother story. We'll stick to sports for today. You and I will stick to politics on our shows tonight. All right, Sean Salisbury, NFL quarterback, and my buddy and my partner on this show. Thanks for another great segment.
You're awesome, man. Thanks, Wayne.
Thanks for hanging out with us on Crush House today. I want you to remember you can sign up right now to become a part of the Crush House gang and unlock all my winning picks. Free point spread advice, plus best bet winners from me and my team of 21 sports handicapping champions only at vegaswinners.com. What else can you do at vegaswinners.com? Check out all our entertaining and informative Crush House podcasts. Enter to win fabulous prizes, including trips to Vegas to join me and the Crush House gang to watch a game, break some bread, and experience Sin City like few ever will. And most importantly, it's all about the Benjamins, because my favorite thing is winning and winning big. Just go to vegaswinners.com right now. Follow the prompts to register. It's free and easy. It takes 2 minutes, and then the world of sports gaming advice and point spread winners opens up to you. You automatically get the wisdom, the analysis, the scores, the odds, articles, every handicapping tool possible, free point spread picks, and best bets from 21 of the best sports handicappers in the world. It's all there. Also, a big thank you to Chip and Rashad for dropping in. I enjoyed our chat about picking winners and how legends stay legends. If you like what you saw or heard, come back and tune in to Crush House Cappers every week only on the Crush House Network, which includes Crush House Legends, and this podcast, Crush House Cappers. Thanks for stopping in. Winning isn't everything. It's the only thing. Until next time, just win big, baby.